Goosebumps Series 2000 Creature Teacher is the book that I consider to be the real mascot of the Goosebumps franchise. It's the book that I believe has everything that Goosebumps kind of represents and needs to show. And in fact, I made a whole video about it, so shameless self-plug. But this book had a ton of great gross out moments, very intense, terrifying moments, hair-raising moments. It had a nice atmosphere. It had a fantastic setting with the boarding school ran by this monstrous bloated hag named Mrs. Marg, a real creature teacher. And overall, this story had a lot of high tension and what is my opinion perfect pacing, a well done structure. Overall, it was a fantastic package of a kid's horror story. So it makes sense that this book would be one of the prime candidates to get a modern sequel. And with the series called Most Wanted, which focuses on the most terrifying, horrific, grossest, craziest villains that are in high demand, it makes sense that out of all the randos that we got in the book for series, Mrs. Mark would be the one that ends up getting picked. So I'm looking forward to talking about this sequel, and hopefully I'm going to get into the plot, give my thoughts about it, and you guys can get a grasp as to not only what the story is about, but in my opinion, what are its negatives and what are its strengths, and most importantly, does it live up to the hype of the very first Creature Teacher book? So we'll see and find out. So without further ado, let's get into my very first brand new Goosebumps review in 7 months. That's right, your boy the Horrorlander has not touched or reviewed a brand new Goosebumps book in 7 months. The last one that I did was Goosebumps Horrorland Slappy New Year. And ever since then, I've still been giving you guys Goosebumps content, but it's been discussion videos, other movie reviews, adult horror stuff, or other kids' horror content. I've not touched a brand new Goosebumps one. So, we're right back into the swing of things. Hope you guys enjoy the video. And also, shout out to the YouTuber, The Goose Block, a fantastic Goosebumps YouTuber who happened to make the thumbnail for this video. Very fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. So thank you for that, Bruce. And we also got a very cool Goosebumps collab video coming up this Friday. So stay tuned for when that fire drops. Now, as much as I like to say some things that sets us up for this book review, R.L. Stine actually in the beginning of this book has his own little excerpt hyping up Most Wanted and Mrs. Marg in this story. So I'll let his dialogue take it away. I see you're admiring the wanted posters on the wall. Those posters show the creepiest, crawliest, grossest villains of all time. They are the most wanted bad guys from the most wanted Goosebumps books. That poster you're studying is of Mrs. Mark. She's a teacher, and yes, as you can see, she's also a monster. That's why her students call her Creature Teacher, but only behind her back. A boy named Tommy Forelli can tell you all about her. Tommy met her at a very strange summer camp, a camp for winners. The problem is, Tommy may not ever return from this camp unless he can find a way to pass the Creature Teacher's final exam. Go ahead, read Tommy's story. You'll soon find out why Creature Teacher is most wanted. Creature Teacher The Final Exam is a summer camp book which is very popular in the Goosebumps book series, and the main character is named Tommy Forelli, who basically grows up in a family of a bunch of winners. His mom and dad are very successful, his little sister also wins a bunch of competitions, and they think very highly of themselves. They're always extremely, incredibly competitive. Every little thing they compete over, whether it be racing over to get first in a restaurant, sitting down at the table, whoever is the first one to sit down ends up getting to order the most food. Whoever does not make it, first basically ends up getting less and less food or gets no food at all. They'll be fighting with each other and bickering over every little thing. And even when the sister and the main character are basically arguing, the parents like it because that shows competitive winning spirit. So extremely over the top in terms of setup, but Tommy Forelli is quite relatable himself because he doesn't care about winning. He just wants to be himself. He just wants to live his life. He wants to chill. He doesn't care about that competitive aspect. So he's having some hard times adjusting to this family. But they're looking forward to basically transforming him into a winner. And the way they're going to do that is by sending him over to a prestigious, well regarded, and hyped up summer camp called Camp Winner, which is expected to take on kids that are thought to be of losers by society or their families. And by the end of this camp session, these 2 weeks, they'll end up becoming winners, whatever that may mean. And they're hyped up to basically not leave the island unless they come out a winner. So there's some ominous foreshadowing and undertones regarding this strange camp and its idea as well. As the protagonist ends up taking a boat ride, leaving his family behind, and getting to Camp Winter, this summer camp, he ends up finding out that things are really strange because in the beginning, his duffel bag of items ends up getting casually stolen, and the camp counselors don't really seem to care. They don't really seem to mind the fact that he got robbed because that's an expectation. This camp is supposed to make you tougher. And he sees a dozen or so kids out by this like baseball mound or something, basically fighting and wrestling and tussling with each other. Almost looks like they're beating the shit out of each other. And the counselors say, "Oh yeah, those are just your morning warm-ups. You'll get used to it."
No! No!
Little eccentric for the beginning introduction of this camp. You know shit's finna go down. As the story continues, the main character Tommy basically ends up finding out that he might not be able to trust the other kids in the camp. It's sort of a dog eat dog kind of idea that keeps getting repeated. Everybody has to be a winner. Nobody's trying to be a loser. There's no way you can trust each other because somebody might betray you or try to get over you because that's what winners do. And there's a couple kids that he meets who end up basically trying to talk to him. And their names are Sophia, a girl, and his fellow bunkmate named Ricardo, who are telling him about this teacher, which basically landed on this little island camp and ended up taking it over. The previous counselor basically got dethroned. He ended up becoming an assistant. And this is a monster teacher, a creature teacher by the name of Mrs. Marg. And her plans are to eat at least one kid because after the previous counselor basically negotiated with her, whoever ends up being a loser in this camp after her final exam of dares and challenges are over for the kids, that loser on the bottom of her social totem pole will end up being a meal for her. And of course, like any normal kid, he's thinking this is a whole bunch of cap. Who the fuck would believe this type of shit? That there's a creature teacher that's on a summer camp who's trying to eat you? That sounds crazy, right? Yeah, I mean, you saw the cover. You saw the title. You know it's a Goosebumps book. This kid is cooked, literally and metaphorically. And after he, of course, ends up getting on a bad note with Mrs. Marg, he ends up confronting her, thinking that she's a sham, and then he sees her and finds out she really is a monster, this bloated, monstrous hag with bulging cow-like eyes, a giant cow-like pink tongue, sharp teeth, an extended, saggy face, a bunch of plump arms, and a wide body. And when he ends up trying to basically pull on her face and act like it's a type of mask, he realizes, no, that's actually her face, that's actually her skin. She is a monster. And he ends up doing very bad in terms of his first impression. And as the story goes along and he attends classes and he's forced to participate in a final exam, which is a series of competitions, basically dares that these people and kids have to do. If he keeps on failing them and facing bad luck, he's going to end up being eaten. And the fact that he arrived at camp 2 days late when everybody else has a head start on him already basically sets him up for failure. And the question is, can he pass the final exam? Can he get past the competitions and the dares and make it to at least not the bottom rung of this ladder that Mrs. Marg is using to determine a meal? Or is he going to end up being on her silverware by the end of these 2 weeks? That is the dilemma. That is the problem with Camp Winter. And you have to see how Tommy navigates and deals with it all. So that's basically the general plot line without me getting into too much details. But now let's go into the positive and negatives and the overall impression and kind of rating that I give the story. And we can talk a little bit more about some of the details in the actual plot itself without giving too much away. So, regarding the positives of the story, I have to say that I really enjoy that nostalgic summer camp vibe. The way you have descriptions about how they're crossing the lake on a boat to actually get to Camp Winter, the summer camp on this little island. There's descriptions of the golden sunlight reflecting off the water. Very calming, very soothing, describing, the sandy paths on this summer camp, how it's right by this giant lake, all the different descriptions of the woods, the insects, the noises, and all these different activities. It was very nostalgic for me because I've been to summer camps when I was a kid and I enjoyed them, man. So I like that vibe. It is a fun setting for that reason. And another positive I have about the story is I do like the challenges, the dares that basically the kids have to go through for the actual final exam. Because one of the scenes kind of involves a classroom where the kids are forced to eat giant, thriving, throbbing, wiggling worms. Yeah, and it's absolutely disgusting. You see the main character having to basically eat a full-blown 6-inch worm, and the descriptions of how it tastes absolutely sour and bitter, the clumps of dirt coming off of it, how it wriggles down his throat and tries to crawl out of his mouth and all types of stuff. It is disgusting, and hearing his stomach heave and all this stuff almost made me a little queasy. So it's more gross out and graphic than what you get in like the Haunted Mask or even Go Eat Worms. So I did appreciate that. There's also later challenges you get, like one where basically it's at night in front of a bonfire, and these kids basically have to play chicken. They have to stand still as a bunch of giant swarms of vampire bats are basically rage baited and triggered to come and attack the kids. So you kind of have to stand your ground, and that's quite horrific. The idea of all types of bats crawling all over you and then attacking you can get a little intense. And my favorite scene, which I won't go into too much detail, but there's a scene involving swimming through an underground, underwater cavern with no lights on. It's pure black, only a little bit of sunlight, and you have to swim down there and navigate it, and there's crashing waves. You could drown, smash against rocks, all type of stuff. That was an intense scene, and I believe it lasted a few chapters, if I can recall. So those are good scenes in the book. It's got some good hair-raising scenes and some other stuff, which I'm leaving out just so you can experience it. But that's kind of where my positives end. And the thing is, I have to compare this book to Creature Teacher, the first book, because again, Mrs. Marg is returning. She kind of keeps her same type of general glory, same type of plot line involving, social hierarchies, being a loser, the loser being a winner. That was in the first book. It's in here, but now in a summer camp setting instead of a boarding school. But the first book, I gave a 9.5 out of 10. It is a fantastic book, and I love it for many reasons. It's got good atmosphere. It's got a great isolated setting. It's got great pacing. It's got great tension. There is building trust with people you think are your friends, and then it ends up being betrayals, high stakes, gross out horror, scary horror, the idea that Mrs. Marg is unhinged and she could just snap and eat anybody on the whim. Those are all good things. But with this book, the negatives that I have with it, first of all, is it feels very caricature-y, okay? When it came to the beginning scene with the parents and the idea of being a winner, I did not like it, man. The parents were so over the top. I'm a little more lenient when it comes to kids horror because kids horror has a lower ceiling than something like adult horror. I don't expect to get scared off my bricks or crazy, crazy visuals. But, it gets to a point where it's like, okay, we get it, bro. We get it. We understand. It's a dog-eat-dog world. You want to win. You can't be a loser. Like, these parents are fucking racing to get to a restaurant. Whoever sits down first gets to order the most food. The little sister arguing with her brother is supported because that's competitive spirit. It's all this random stuff. And they put hot sauce on all their pancakes because it makes you tough. And it's all these random things. And throughout the story, every time Tommy brings up his parents, or he talks to counselors, or he talks to kids, everybody in this apparently Goosebumps verse of Teacher Creature Final Exam has caricature, just winner-oriented people. And it's like, okay, dude, we get it. That's not very cleverly written. It's just in your face and campy and over the top. Second, this book does not have anywhere near the same amount of tension and well-written story structure and pacing that the first book has. The first book is more clever. You have this great main character who has humor to him, he's charismatic, and he gets put into this setting where he's making a lot of the mistakes, right? He goes to this boarding school, he underestimates Mrs. Marg, he gets thrown into this crazy talent show situation, and he thinks that he can build trust with these kids. These kids are leading him on that they're his friends. They can figure out a way. They're working on their towns to try to survive and not get eaten. And then there's betrayals. There's second guessing. There's stuff that happens towards the climax that basically sets up the main character for failure and causes tension because he's going to get eaten and killed. It's very well paced and structured in terms of that. In this book, it's not like there's trust being built from the main character of these kids. These kids are overly betraying him and ruining him and pranking him and doing all these things from the beginning. In fact, they verbally tell him, you can't trust anybody here. We're your friends, but you can't trust your friends. And all these very sort of out there sayings and stuff. So literally in their face, constantly telling this guy that you can't trust anybody, you can't listen to anybody. And this dumbass kid keeps repeating the same mistake. He keeps trusting people. He keeps getting fooled and bamboozled and looking like an idiot. It's like, that's not clever. Okay? In the first book, it's a character who's building trust with people, and then the rug is pulled from under you where it actually matters, and it's more cleverly written. Here, it's just in your face, goofy, ha, gotcha, and the kid keeps falling for it. On top of that, in the first book, the main character was making mistakes, okay? He was underestimating and making mistakes. Here, the kid is set up for failure. He came 2 days fucking late, so everybody's ahead of him. He's supposed to apparently not listen to the teacher and prove he's brave during the worm scene. He eats the worm, and Mrs. Marg goes, oh, you failed because everybody else did not eat their worms. They rejected my instructions. That showed courage. You were a bitch. You were a loser because you listened to what I had to say. You fat ass cow bitch. What are you talking about? Because from the beginning, there's kids who are playing dodgeball with a bowling ball. They're playing like javelin tag and all these crazy shits. They're participating in these crazy challenges. So clearly kids are listening to your instructions. They're not rejecting your instruction or authority. No, they're listening to you. Okay? So how come this test, all of a sudden you had to be defiant? Realistically, if you want to be a winner, you just don't have to listen to Marg the whole story. But that's not how it works. Kids are still listening to her and all this type of stuff. And it feels like the rules are so random and so inconsistent that I'm like, why is this kid even bothering trying? Like, it's just stupid. I feel like you could have literally skipped all these chapters in the book and just gotten straight to the climax where he's about to get eaten. Because why are you even trying? You keep getting fooled by all the other kids. They're literally in your face saying, don't trust us. Don't trust your friends. Rely on yourself. Do not listen to us. And he keeps fucking it up. It's just like, it gets so frustrating, dude. And the fact that the rules are inconsistent. I'm sorry to keep bringing up the first book, but this is a direct sequel and it has the same type of general formula. In the first book, it was not stupid rules. It was set up. This is a talent show. You have to impress me at the talent show. If you fuck up and you're a loser and you keep making me mad and all this stuff, you're going to go to the bottom. Here, the kid is trying everything he can, and Marg is just switching up the rules on the fly and being like, you failed. And then he'll not listen to what the kids have to say, and they'll be like, you failed. And the kids will trick him and do all this stuff. It's such a hopeless situation. And when it's that hopeless, I'm not invested. Because it's a 133-page book. Okay, there's over 30 chapters. Why would I be invested in a story where the kid is set up for failure in every turn and corner? It's not like he's impressing me and making me invested and then he messes up, takes a few steps back, draws me back in. No, it's not like that. That was in the first one. In this one, he's constantly just getting set up and it gets annoying. And the challenges are cool, but it just feels like every chapter is like, all right, here's a new challenge. All right, here's a new challenge. All right, here's a new challenge. There's no unanimous kind of story that you're building up to. And once you get to that climax, man, I can't talk about the climax because it's spoilers and the ending, but it felt so rushed, It felt so rushed as a climax. It's like you get to this point, this hyped up point, and it's rushed. It's just it ends quickly. It's some plot device gets thrown in there, which was I was like, okay, I gave it a cushion, but it felt very random. He literally he finds something in the woods and it has something in it, and that timing made it perfect for the end of the story. And then as soon as you get to that twist ending, I fucking hate the twist ending. And the twist ending is just brain rot. It's a brain rot twist ending. And overall, I'm going to give this book a 7.5 out of 10. You know, is it a good summer read? Yes. It's a summer camp. It has great descriptions of the summer camp. It's fun. The concept is kind of cool. It's like if you took horror at Camp Jelly Jam with the whole winners and competitions and all that type of stuff and weird counselors and setting up to be eaten, you know, I'm not going to go too much into that. And then combining it with Creature Teacher. On paper, it sounds like a cool idea, but the execution was a little lackluster. It didn't feel like a uniform story. It felt kind of hopeless. It felt kind of pointless at times. It felt just like random shit being thrown in there at certain points. And it wasn't like I found the character clever. And honestly, I've heard multiple people tell me that this is a good sequel, that this is one of their favorite moderns. I've heard some people say that this is close to the first book, that this is as good as Creature Teacher, the first book. No, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's pretty good. It's not flat out good, and it's not close to great or perfect by any means, in my opinion. Could it have been? Absolutely. The stuff was there. But that Creature Teacher from Series 2000 book did everything better. It just did everything way better. The only thing is that the boarding school might not be as interesting of a location as the summer camp is. But that being said, the summer camp setting is really just kind of used for nostalgia and for some fun gimmicks, which I did enjoy, which is why I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Maybe I'd even give it like a couple points higher, not an entire grade higher, but a little extra points if I was being lenient. But the overall story, it goes clear victory to the first book. Um, and even individually, if I look at it individually as a book, which I was trying to do, you know, at certain points, it's still not that super interesting to me. So yeah, a 7.5 out of 10. It's a pretty good book. Do I recommend you check it out? Yeah, you should still read it. You know, I still think you'd have some fun if you want to get into the summer camp vibe, get into the seasonal vibe. If you want to have some fun little challenges and more fun kind of things thrown in there, you should do it. But if you're looking at it from like a story perspective, I don't know what people are smoking when it comes to thinking this book is close or equals Creature Teacher, the very first one. No, that thing triumphed over it in many ways, and the execution was way better. So yeah, that's all I got for today. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed my return back to reviewing new Goosebumps books, free way to support me is you hit that subscribe button down below first, then you hit that like button, and then comment down below. Have you read this book before? Most Wanted, Creature Teacher, The Final Exam. How do you feel about it as a sequel? Do you think it lived up to the hype? What are your thoughts about it? And be honest, tell me if you loved the book. Tell me what areas it might have been lackluster, what areas it excelled in. Let's just spark up a dialogue. Let me know your thoughts. And stay tuned for more content to come. That's all I got for today. And now I recommend that you go outside and enjoy the sun because I definitely need it. I won't lie. This thing got me into the summer vibe at least. So, adios, everybody. Deuces.
アリーベデルチ